Okay, in this example we're going to be solving some quadratic inequalities. There's two parts, A and B, and I'm going to do an example and then there's a problem for you to have a go at yourself. To begin with, I'd like to point out my top tip for solving quadratic inequalities. I think this is really important, and if you follow this tip, you'll find you make a lot less mistakes with these kind of questions, even as they get harder. So the top tip is, always sketch the graph when you're solving a quadratic inequality. As we go through the example, I'll show you why that's helpful. So in part A, we have x squared minus 10x plus 24 is less than or equal to 0. This quadratic factorises, we'd get x minus 4 in one bracket and x minus 6 in the other bracket. Writing it in this form allows us to see two key values on the curve, and we're going to call them the critical values, which are when these brackets would equal 0, so when x equals 4 and when x equals 6. At this point, I'm going to sketch the graph. My x squared term is positive, so I have a U-shaped parabola. And I've drawn the x-axis on, but I'm not going to draw the y-axis because it's not relevant to what I need the graph for. On the graph, I'm going to mark my critical values, which are essentially the roots on this quadratic. I have 4 and 6. Now that I've got this sketch, I'm going to have a look when is the quadratic less than 0. On the graph, that's represented by the part of the graph that is below the x-axis. So this is the region that I want for my answer. So the region where this quadratic is less than 0 is anything in between 4 and 6. So our final answer is 4 is less than or equal to x is less than or equal to 6. Can you see how by sketching this parabola here, it was very easy to see which region I wanted by comparing it to the original equation? If you don't do that, there are times when you'll get caught out writing down your final answer. Okay, here's a similar one for you to try for yourself. Once you've checked your answer though, don't forget there's a part B to this question as well. Okay, pause the video and then come back and check your solution against mine. Welcome back, here's my solution. If you got it right, skip the video ahead to part B, otherwise I'll go through how I got my solution now. So we have x squared minus 2x minus 15 is less than 0. This quadratic factorises, we get x plus 3 and x minus 5. We then find the critical values when it will equal 0. And they are x equals minus 3 and x equals 5. Now we'll sketch the graph. Again, we've got positive x squared, so we have a U-shaped parabola, and we'll mark on our critical values of negative 3 and 5. We want the region of the graph where the quadratic is less than 0 again, which is where it's below the axis. This time we have a strict inequality, so we get minus 3 is less than x is less than 5. Okay, in part B, we have x squared minus 4x minus 21 is bigger than 0. This factorises to give x plus 3 and x minus 7. Therefore, we have critical values at x equals negative 3 and x equals 7. Let's sketch the graph. We have positive x squared, so we have a U-shaped parabola. Let's mark on the critical values. We have negative 3 and we have 7. Unlike in part A, this time our quadratic is bigger than 0. That means we want the region of the graph above the x-axis. And so we have two separate regions this time, so we have to write two separate inequalities. We have a region to the left of negative 3 and that region is x is less than -3. We have a region to the right of 7, which is x is greater than 7. And as we can be in either of these regions, we use the word or to link them together. Now this word here is important in this question. There have previously been exam questions where if you didn't use the word or in between these two solutions, you would not have achieved the final mark. Okay, here's a similar one for you to try for yourself then. Pause the video and then come back and check your solution against mine. Welcome back, here's my solution. Well done if you got it correct. If you didn't, I'll go through how I got my solution now. So we have x squared plus 2x minus 35 is bigger than or equal to 0. Once again, this factorises. We get x plus 7 and x minus 5. Let's write down the critical values. We have x equals -7 and x equals 5. Let's sketch the graph. Once again, we've got a U-shaped parabola with critical values at -7 and 5. We want the region of the graph where the quadratic is bigger than 0, which is two separate regions. That means we have two separate regions in our answer. The first one to the left of -7 is x is less than or equal to -7. Second region is anything to the right of 5, which is x is bigger than or equal to 5, and don't forget to link them with the word or. And that's our answer.